Okay, the second San Sik in Pin Sun is actually called Siu Nim Tao. Where most people, Siu Nim Tao is the entire form, and Pin Sun is just the name of the second San Sik because it's one of the kind of primary chunks from the bigger Siu Nim Tao form that other systems use. The story goes that when Lung Jan taught Pin Sun in Kulo Village, he was kind of teaching the Cliff Notes version of his prior system and kind of broke things down and made it more modular so it was easy to learn, and he felt that this was probably the most important thing from that original Siu Nim Tao form, so he named it Siu Nim Tao. So the set in Pin Sun, again, if we've opened our stance, Siu Nim Tao just goes out as a Pak Sau, a Tun Sau, and a strike. Pak, Tun, strike. Pak, Tun, strike. And most people recognize this from their Yip Man form, where they do same thing. Pak, Tun, strike. Pak, Tun, strike. Pak, Tun, strike. Pak, Tun, strike. And then this set is where you start learning the first part of the pivot. And so initially you just pivot on one foot at a time. You pivot with the Pak Sau, and then you come back. Pak, Tun, strike. 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 Show it at an angle. Again, it's Pak, Tun, strike. Pak, Tun, strike. Pak Sau goes forward on the shoulder line. Tun Sau swallows, comes back on the shoulder line, and then hit up the center. Pak, Tun, strike. Pak, Tun, strike. Pak, Tun, strike. Then there's a variant showed, Siu Nim Tao, that goes out, and instead of doing a Tun Sau, it goes into what's called a Sau Sau, and then strikes. And it's essentially a high cover. Sau Sau means cover hand. Same thing, I pivot, come back. At an angle, Pak, Pak, Sau Sau, hit, Pak, Sau Sau, hit. And the idea is, if I'm tracking something back with my Tun Sau, an incoming force, and it's swinging wider towards my head, and this is not going to stop it, and this just continues the momentum up. I cover high, I'm striking back. So my Tun Sau wouldn't quite cover it, I just continue the motion up as a Sau Sau. So it's considered an extension of the Tun Sau idea, just comes all the way up, strike. So obviously, that can be adapted and become a high cover, which I'll show in a minute. But the classic two-man application, the two-man drill that goes with the Siu Nim Tao set, requires you to know what we call the yang side, which is almost an entire San Sik in itself. But it's what the partner is doing to trigger the other person to do the set. And so the yang side set that goes with this is you're striking with the edge of the hand like you're striking at the side of the neck, right? So it leaves a gap between my arms. So I'm doing a strike, strike, block. Then I initiate off the same hand. Strike, strike, block. Strike, strike, block. Strike, strike, block. And if I put the pivot with that, it's strike, strike, block. 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 And that angle, again, it's strike, strike, block. Strike, strike, block. Strike, strike, block. Strike, block, strike, strike, block, strike, strike, block, strike, strike, block. And if you recall when we talked about the Choi San Sik, we talked about one of the main principles in there being the touch and go. That's essentially showing up here, right? I struck, and then I block and I strike again. Strike, strike, block, strike, strike. So there's that touch and go idea also showing up in the yang side of this San Sik. So the way we do the two-man, if we're faced off, Anthony's just going to do the set, just like it's taught. And I'm feeding the blows that he's defending against. I'm doing the yang side, right? So I do the strike, and he's going to Pak Sau, boom, Tun Sau, and he does a strike, and I defend. Now I have to strike off of this hand, and he uses the other hand. Bang, bang, bang. Right? Sorry, see? This is what makes it odd. It's an odd, broken rhythm. So this makes it one of the little more complicated sets. Bang, bang, strike, bang, bang, strike, bang, bang, strike, strike. Now, we can also go back to the Pak Tao drill, which was derived from the first San Sik, right? So if Adrian is punching at me, and I can be here, right? But you saw that Siu Nim Tao San Sik kind of puts you on the inside, so I can insert that here, right? Pak, tune, pak, tune, pak, tune, pak, tune, pak, tune, pak, pak, pak. See how that works? I can just put that in. I can do it this way. I don't have to stay on the inside, right? We could be going along, punching. So I do pak, tune, pak, tune, pak, tune. And see how I just kind of ride his punch back so I can come forward with my next Pak Sau. Right? So, and that'd be one application. If he's punching, a Wing Chun guy, nice center line punches, right? He's punching in combinations. He goes punch, punch, and then I hit him. And that's the classic boom, boom, bang, right? That you learn in the Siu Nim Tao. Now, when we start to turn this into our Wing Chun boxing applications, if he's in a boxing stance, I don't want to be between his arms. This is a bad place to be. And he's not throwing nice straight center line punches. So I'm not going to rely on something like this to try to think that's going to stop a punch. And that's why we use a lot of angular footwork. We try to get around here. So automatically you're seeing one way. I can step to the outside. I don't have to do the Pak Tune with just one hand. I can use both hands. So I can be here, and here's my Pak, and here's my Tun Sau to get me to the outside. You see how that works? I'm just here. And now I'm on the outside so I can work him. Around here, and it gets me to the outside, and that's the same coordination. We just did it with two different hands. Right? So that's one way to do it. Another drill we do to learn that cover hand, the idea with the Sau Sau is that there's a force coming at me, and the Tun Sau wasn't enough to stop it. It's still coming at my head, so I just follow it up to cover. So if we're faced off here, and he's got force against my arm, if he's going to hit me, and he was kind of crossing center, I'm going to do a bong sau. But if he's about to hit me and he's throwing a wider punch to try to clock me in the head from there, then I'm just going to follow it up with my cover. Flop, flop. And you can see that could be coming forward, contacting here. I could be covering this hand. I could be punching, but it's that coming up idea. My hand is forward, I'm covering. Now, in the form, this is snappy. Pow, pow. It's like a 1-2 and 1-2 and, not a 1, 2, 3. Pow, pow. That motion is meant to, the minute I've covered, boom, it's automatically coming back as something else. So in this context, he's punched, I've covered, and I'm immediately coming back. Either that's a strike, or that's just to create distance, so then I can start to do something else. But again, or it could have been I've covered, and that hand is already coming, so that just automatically comes forward. It's kind of just a reflex protection, with that whole idea that it's a snapback. That's how we apply that Sau Sau movement. And Pin Sun is taught kind of a circular fashion. In other words, as you learn some of the other sets, you're kind of circling back around and seeing how the sets kind of mix and match and go together. And so, again, I don't have to stay with just this kind of motion. It doesn't have to be just one arm. I could do Pak Sau with one hand, Tun Sau with the other, and then strike, right? So, let's say he's punched, and I've caught it, but again, I don't want to stay right in front of him. I'm moving to the side. So here's my top, Pak Sau, Tun Sau, makes the opening for that strike to slide in. So now, instead of doing Pak Tune this way, I do Pak Tune strike, right? Pak Tune strike, Pak Tune strike. Then I put this hand in for a little extra insurance. So I do Pak Tune, and then I Pak again as I strike. Pak Tune strike again, right? Pow, 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 pow. That whole idea that I'm really making sure I've got this hand out of the way. And that's just pak, tun, strike. Pak, tun, strike. Now some people will argue, oh, well, you're using 2 hands against his 1 hand, and you're using 4 beats. That's not Wing Chun, that's way too inefficient. But when you can do it quick, it just all blends into one. And again, the idea is, I'm not facing another Wing Chun guy that's throwing nice straight angles, right? If he was throwing a nice straight Wing Chun punch, yeah, I can do that. All I need is a 1 count, a Tun Sao and a punch. But if he's a boxer and he's throwing different angles, and I've got to get in there, then I've got to create that space. So as he's punching, here's my pak tun to make that opening, and now I can strike. So it's quick, right? It's pow, and he's hit. So it's not like it's 4 beats, it's like it's 4 motions that blend into one to get in there with the strike. It's just hit. And what I mentioned about circling back around at the more advanced levels, there's a set that's called linked fast palms that looks kind of, it has a motion like this. And so you can see that idea of swinging back and forth and coming around, we can just come back to that and put it as part of the Siu Nim Tao set, and that makes more of the application a little more realistic, right? So in that sense, I could be on the inside, right? You could be throwing something wide, and here's my pak tun, and then that hand's coming, and then I catch it here, right? But again, that idea of, and I'm ready to catch this one as this one comes. And that's more from that linked fast palm set, but it's still that same idea of blending these motions together from that basic that you learned in this set. And again, our big takeaway from the second one is that high cover against the contact already on my forearm coming up. And obviously, that could be interpreted as an elbow strike from the classic set. So I could have been in here where we're close in kind of a tie-up kind of position. We're jockeying for position, and I just throw it up, just like that. Right out of the set. Wham! And of course, what's the return strike? Right there. So the whack, right in the face. Whack, right in the face. Right out of that Siu Nim Tao set. Classic, upward elbow strike. Boom. Ah. All right. That's a quick do-through for Siu Nim Tao. Okay, the Siu Nim Tao set on the dummy. Exactly like it's done in the air. Square it off with the dummy. My pak sao comes out, tun sao comes back, and then I strike. Pak, tun, strike. Pak, tun, strike. So I can blend the two together. I got block. Just start flowing. This, remember we did it alternatively, could be using 2 hands at the same time. I could do pak, tun, strike. So that takes me to the side of the dummy like this. So then I could cycle back around and do it on the other side. Pak, tun, strike. Pak, tun, strike. Pak, tun, strike. So that's just that. And when I strike with either of these, I'm sticking to the dummy with the arm. Pak, tun, stick to the dummy's arm. Pak, tun, stick to the dummy's arm. Okay? That's the classic set. Now, when we do it kind of from a boxing structure, I'm going to be moving around. And so let's say I want to shift to this side, right? So that's when I'm here. And then I pak, tun, strike. Right? Pak, tun, strike. Pak, tun, strike. Pak, tun, strike. Getting out here. But it's just that returning motion. Now, with the knives, same idea. I'm here, pak, tun, strike. Pak, tun, strike. Pak, tun, strike. Pak, tun, strike. And the tun is just that returning backhand motion with the knife that would deflect something off the line. That's a tun. So pak sao, I'm just pushing something aside. Tun Sau, strike. That's the Siu Nim Tao with the knives. Now we can do that variant where I'm doing, mixing it up using both knives, right? So I could have done something where I've got Pak, Tun is this knife, and then strike, right? Pak, Tun, strike. Pak, Tun, strike. Pak, Tun, strike. Pak, Tun, strike. So I deflect something, I pick it up with this knife, and then I'm hitting. Now, like I mentioned before, another set later on cycles side to side, more like this. So obviously it makes more sense to do Pak, Tun, and strike with this blade, right? Pak, Tun, strike. So that set becomes this. So I got Pak Sau to deflect, I pick it up with this one and slice with this one. Pak Sau to deflect, I pick it up with this one, I slice with this one. Alright, and see how from this set too is teaching you this turning motion with the wrist. For the Ju Choi, it was kind of the side and it came around more from the inside this way, right? I'm visualizing I've been hit. My blade comes around and then I strike. Boom, boom. This one is coming back. It's a distinctive backhand motion. So it's teaching you this. Right? Pak, Tun, strike. Pak, Tun, strike. So you're catching this flowing motion with the knife. Right? That's part of what you're learning. And that's the Siu Nim Tao with the knives.